Throughout my adventure in Hyrule, I kept noticing this huge mass of storm clouds in the sky above the Faron region. Eventually, I decided to take a little trip to these storm clouds, find out what was going on there. As soon as I did reach them, I discovered that it's basically impossible to navigate. The space within the storm clouds is shrouded in haze and fog. So, without any guidance at all, not really expecting to find anything, I chose a direction at random and leapt off. To my tremendous surprise, totally by accident, I reached an island. A very large island with this super cool ancient Zonai temple. Inside the temple, I found this sick looking mask that started talking to me, and it told me to follow this beam of light. And I was like, sweet, I just found some random side quest, cool. I followed the light to an ancient elevator that brought me down into the depths. Down there, out of nowhere, the Sage of Spirits started talking to me. It turns out this was an ancient robot construction facility, and I needed to gather 4 custom robo parts so that I could build the Sage a new custom robo-robot body, which was both completely insane and also extremely unexpected. I realized at that moment that I had stumbled upon, completely by accident, without following any directions from the game at all, not only a part of the main questline, but probably the most hidden questline in the game. This is the dungeon you're supposed to do last. I expect that every single person who played Tears of the Kingdom had at least one experience like this, whether it was one of the temples or sages or something else. At some point, you found something in the game's world way earlier than you were supposed to. Just by exploring, by playing the game at your own pace, traveling in whatever direction you chose, you stumbled upon some part of the main questline. And it's really exciting when you do this. It feels like you really are the one in control of your adventure. You're discovering things totally organically, without any waypoints or directions. This is what made Breath of the Wild's exploration so special. It wasn't about what you were discovering. It's that the game really made you feel like you were finding it yourself. It was your discovery. That's what sets Breath of the Wild apart from nearly every other open-world video game. I was worried that since Tears of the Kingdom reuses Breath of the Wild's map, we wouldn't get moments like these anymore, that there would be nothing new left to discover in a world we had already explored. But that's not the case. Nintendo did an absolutely fantastic job of making this world feel new again, of filling it with new things to discover. And everyone who played and loved Breath of the Wild, all of us, we all have some personal favorite location in the game. Like maybe you loved the simple and quiet farm life of Hateno Village, or maybe you loved the hidden mountain ninja enclave of Kakariko Village, or maybe you loved the desert oasis town of the Gerudo. Whatever it was, I think one of the most exciting parts of Tears of the Kingdom is getting to revisit your favorite place to see how it has changed. For me, it was Tarrey Town. Back in Breath of the Wild, the Tarrey Town side quest was easily the best in the game. I felt like I had a personal connection to the town because I had helped build it. So when I started Tears of the Kingdom, Tarrey Town was high on my list of the first places I wanted to revisit. I spent a lot of hours thinking, man, I can't wait to see Tarrey Town again, the first new settlement built in Hyrule since the Calamity. I can't wait to see how it has changed. I can't wait to see my stoic muscle boy Hudson again. And when I finally made the journey to that corner of the map, I was not disappointed. The entire town has expanded. It used to be contained to this single plateau, but now it extends down into this marshy forest area. Since Link cleared out the Malice and the Guardians and the monsters from the first game, the villagers were safe to expand into an area that would have been too dangerous to settle before, which makes it feel like my adventure in the first game has actually borne tangible benefits for the ordinary people of Hyrule. And the best change of all is the inclusion of a new character. The conclusion of the Tarrey Town side quest in Breath of the Wild was a wedding between the Stoic Town founder Hudson and the Gerudo tailor Ronson. In Tears of the Kingdom, they now have a daughter, Mattison, who has the same mega dorky hair as her father. There's a whole little quest involving helping her say goodbye to her home, before she journeys to Gerudo Town. It's really cute and sweet, and the whole thing feels like a perfect sequel to the story of the first game. Nintendo did a really good job of adding something new to each settlement in the game, whether it was new buildings or new characters or some new side quest. Everywhere you revisit, you will have something new to find and something new to do. Whatever your favorite location from Breath of the Wild was, your excitement at visiting it in Tears of the Kingdom will be satisfied. But let's rewind all the way back to the beginning of Tears of the Kingdom. I think Tears of the Kingdom has one of the best opening segments in any Zelda game. You and Princess Zelda explore the depths beneath Hyrule together, searching for the source of the gloom, discover ancient ruins, ancient knowledge, and as you descend deeper, ominous alien music rises in volume and intensity. The deeper you go, the clearer it becomes that something very terrible is waiting for you both down here. And then you find Ganondorf's mummified corpse, which is kind of terrifying, but also a genuine visual spectacle. It's visually beautiful, with this strange green energy swirling from his body. This whole opening is immediately compelling. Part of it is the sense of mystery and exploration, and part of it is that this is the only instance in either Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom when you actually get to spend any time with Princess Zelda at all. For being the namesake of the entire series, it's crazy how little screen time Princess Zelda's character actually gets in any of these games. Nintendo, when are you going to let her be an actual part of the adventure? Spirit Tracks is one of my favorite Zelda games, and that's at least a little bit because it's the only one where Princess Zelda gets to be an integral part of the game for the entire game. Something else interesting about this opening is that this is one of the few extended, linear, scripted cinematic sections in either game. I know Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are all about player freedom and letting us play however we want and approach challenges at any pace and in any order we want. But this opening is a brief demonstration of how atmospheric and exciting a modern Zelda could be when the developers take a little more control over the player's experience. While I really have loved these two open-world Zelda games, I do hope in the future the series will have more sections like this one, where the developers are crafting a cinematic and exciting experience for the player. Not everything has to be totally open all the time. Some of the most memorable parts of previous Zelda games were their most linear and scripted bits. Moving on, I want to talk a little bit about the depths. Nintendo placed these Sky Islands at the center of all their marketing material for Tears of the Kingdom. Everyone who played Tears of the Kingdom knew about the Sky Islands before playing, but Nintendo barely showed anything of the depths at all. They kept the depths sort of hidden so players could discover this new region for themselves. At some point, everyone who plays Tears of the Kingdom is going to dive down into the depths for the first time. My first time going down was pretty random. I was just kind of like, alright, let's check out this big hole in the ground, see what's down there. I jumped inside and then I just kept going and going and going. I was like, holy crap, this is really, really deep. And then when you finally reach the bottom, the game plays this huge bassy horn blast that heralds your arrival into an alien new world. I absolutely loved this horn blast the game played every time I went down into the depths. There's something so satisfying about it. When I took my first look at the depths, the thing that struck me was how absolutely pitch black the place was. You could see lights here and there glowing and flickering in the far distance, but almost everything was totally shrouded in dark. It felt so mysterious, so ominous, so unwelcoming, and I was so excited to explore it. When I did explore, I very quickly realized the incredible scale of the depths. These caverns are truly massive, colossal. The depths are like a second Hyrule Kingdom, an entirely new world hidden deep beneath the surface of the first. with new flora, new challenges, and a new alien atmosphere. The first steps I took in the depths were truly some of the most exciting of the entire game. But let's get out of the depths and out into the open air, because the next part of the game I want to talk about is Rito Village. The entire Rito questline is one of my favorite parts of the game. There's this point where you are tasked with finding the son of the village chief, Tulin. You start off at the very base of the Hebra Mountains and slowly work your way up and up and up, penetrating the deep cold, trudging through snowdrifts, climbing the mountain, battling ice monsters, exploring caverns. Just reaching Tulin is its own exciting little mini adventure. Tulin himself is my favorite of the sages in the game, partly because he's just so darn freaking cute. I mean, look at this fluffy bird boy. He's like a giant stuffed animal, with his big blue eyes and his little pink cheeks and his fluffy feathers. Don't you just want to pick him up and rub your face on his fluffy, wuffy belly? But he's also really useful from a gameplay perspective. His Wind Blast ability is awesome. With it, you can rocket yourself through the air, bridging huge gaps. It totally transformed how I maneuvered the environment. From this point, the bird people entreat you and Tulin to climb all the way to the top of the mountain and investigate the massive cold front cyclone storm that's been plunging the whole region into a deep freeze. This is where the Rito quest gets really awesome. To reach the top of the cyclone, you have to navigate this sprawling mid-air obstacle course. It's like a Super Mario Galaxy level dropped into the middle of a Zelda game. I loved it. Me and Tulin were blasting from platform to platform, battling robots, ascending hundreds of feet into the air. At the very final segment of this platforming section, you have to bounce on the sails of these flying airboats that are circling the cyclone. It's really fun, but also the scale is crazy. You are at the highest parts of the map. You are flying hundreds of feet in the air, leaping from airship to airship, blasting through the air with Tulin's air gust ability. And as high as you already are, you just keep going higher and higher. One terrible mistake away from ruining it all. There's a sense of scale and spectacle and splendor here that is unmatched in nearly any other Zelda game. And then you bounce off the final airship, up and over the cloud wall of the cyclone, over the storm, and all of a sudden the air becomes so calm and clear, and you dive down into the cyclone onto the deck of the Wind Temple. Holy freaking crapola, this is so flipping cool. Has there ever been an entrance to a dungeon half as cool as this in any other Zelda game? This was the moment when Tears of the Kingdom became one of my favorite games ever. This was the moment I stopped thinking of it as just Breath of the Wild DLC, and I felt like it had emerged as an amazing game in its own right. Fast forward to the end of the Wind Temple. I thought the boss fights in Breath of the Wild were pretty good, but unextraordinary, sort of forgettable. However, that is very much not the case with this boss fight in the Wind Temple. It is both extraordinary and extremely memorable. A massive insectoid ice dragon creature emerges from the deep belly of the Wind Temple, and you battle it mid-air, flying through the sky with Tulin, dodging tornadoes and giant ice projectiles, shattering segments of its body with your bare hands. It's awesome. First, there's the scale of this boss fight. I mean, it's just freaking huge. It's as big as the entire Wind Temple. The Legend of Zelda series has had a lot of big bosses in the past, but I don't think it's ever had anything this dynamic before. I can't remember a boss that was this big, this mobile, where the player is flying all over the place too. There's so much movement here. And next is the mechanics of the boss fight. Tears of the Kingdom added a diving ability so that Link can quickly move from the sky back down onto the surface. It's a very simple and straightforward mechanic. It's not something I would have thought the developers could squeeze much out of. There aren't very many gameplay things you can do with a dive, except the developers at Nintendo are 1,000 times more creative than me, because with Colgera they created an entire boss fight centered around this mechanic. This boss fight is all about using the diving mechanic in an exciting and cinematic way. To defeat Colgera, you literally dive through its body, shattering it piece by piece. When you fly through its ice shell, breaking its body with Link's face, there's no other word to describe it than epic. This is the sort of moment truly great adventures are made of. And while we're on the topic of boss battles, I want to discuss another one of the game's best boss fights. The whole Goron and Death Mountain quest is really fun in this game. The crisis here is that the Gorons have become addicted to gloom rocks, and they spend so much time eating that they never do anything else, and also they're acting like jerks. I really like that the Gorons' whole problem in Tears of the Kingdom is that they want to just sit around and eat all day and never do any work. I found it to be so relatable. Like, guys, that's all I want to do too. Let's all lay in bed and eat cheesecake until we die. Finally, Nintendo is tackling a plotline relevant to my life. As part of this questline, you get to battle a possessed Yunobo, which is pretty fun, but not the boss fight I want to talk about. Afterwards, with Yunobo at your side, you ride minecarts to the top of Death Mountain. And when you reach the summit, the solidified magma living boulder spitting lava monster Moragia rises out of the crater of the volcano. Link and Yunobo board a fan-propelled glider and get to work smashing the volcano monster to pieces. Once again, the scale here is flipping crazy. You are flying around the crater of a massive active volcano, doing battle against a giant chunk of living lava. I can't believe this is really happening. But also, just like in the Colgera boss fight, here there is an aspect of the developers using what is a relatively simple game mechanic to heighten a boss fight into something truly special. With Colgera, it was the diving mechanic, and with Moragia, it's this glider. Building and piloting vehicles is a central part of Tears of the Kingdom's gameplay, and with Moragia, the developers found a way to make it a central part of a boss fight too. You are literally flying an airplane in a Zelda game while shooting a Goron at a lava monster in a volcano. Like, holy crap, what is this game? Next, I want to talk about the Gerudo questline. The Gerudo questline doesn't have anything with quite the same level of spectacle and scale as the Colgera and Moragia boss fights, but it does include one of my favorite set pieces in the game. In Tears of the Kingdom, the once peaceful Gerudo town has been transformed into a wasteland. A terrible and relentless sandstorm batters the town, forcing its denizens to seek shelter underground. And even worse, the town is under siege by Gerudo. These resilient, hard-shelled, insectoid zombie mummy monsters are swarming the town gates. And if they overwhelm the Gerudo defenses, these monsters will likely slaughter all within. It's a genuinely dire situation, one of the most serious and deadly crises Link has ever faced in a Zelda game. Link joins the Gerudo warriors in the defense of their home, and what makes this one of the most exciting parts of the game is that you actually get to fight alongside those warriors. It's not just for show, it's not just window dressing. Link is still the one who wins the day, but the Gerudo warriors are a key part of this fight, and you get to strategize and manage the defenses. You choose where to place the barricades, the cannon, where to station the different classes of troops. And these choices matter. I actually failed this defense a couple times. I wasn't managing the defenses well enough or moving quickly enough, so the town got swarmed by monsters. In my final successful run, I was racing through the town, sprinting down the streets, climbing walls, leaping over rooftops to stop the Gerudo before the Gerudo warriors were overwhelmed. The whole thing is so dynamic and fast-paced, it's really fun. It reminded me of Majora's Mask, the part of that game where you defend the Romani cattle barn from the UFO aliens, except this time it's way more exciting and at a way bigger scale. Instead of defending a single barn from a handful of balloon aliens, you're defending an entire town from an army of invading monsters. Plus, your partner here is Riju, who has the coolest sage ability in the game. With her, you're raining lightning death explosions down on your enemies. You are literally Thor, God of Thunder. The defense of Gerudo Town is cool enough, but when you're casting explosive lightning bolts and sending monster bodies flying in all directions, that pushes it over the edge into one of the most exciting parts of the game. Next, I want to talk about the Master Sword. In every Zelda game, the moment when you first draw the Master Sword is always accompanied by a certain amount of pizzazz. It's always a big deal. Up until now, my favorite Master Sword reveal was back in Twilight Princess. In that game, you go hunting for the Master Sword deep in a hidden and lush wood, full of wildlife and ancient ruins, where you'll first do battle against a lunatic puppet and then solve one of the hardest puzzles in the whole game. You'll only reach the Master Sword after overcoming each of these challenges, and when Wolf Link touches the sword, he is reborn as the human hero of light. And he raises the sword up over his head, and there's a crescendo of music, and a shockwave that dispels the fog. And then Midna's like, "Holy crap, Link, you're so cool!" It's an awesome moment. However, like with everything else, Tears of the Kingdom revamps the discovery of the Master Sword with so much spectacle and scale that it outshines every other Master Sword cutscene in every other game. So I went searching for the Master Sword in the Korok Forest, which is a pretty serious challenge in and of itself, requiring you to find a hidden path through the depths just to enter the woods. And then you have to battle a version of Phantom Ganon deep in the Deku Tree's roots to heal the forest. After that, all the Deku Tree will tell you about the Master Sword is that it's flying around in the air. And I was like, what the heck does that mean? So I tracked down its location, looked up in the air, and there I saw a freaking dragon. I realized that the Master Sword was actually on that dragon. And then I was like, how the freaking heck am I supposed to get up there? There's no scripted sequence that will give you access to the dragon. You have to follow its path around Hyrule, get up somewhere really high, and then dive down onto its back. Back in Breath of the Wild, it was impossible to actually climb the dragon's bodies. If you tried, they'd just smack you back onto your stupid butt. But in Tears of the Kingdom, you actually land on these giant flying primordial creatures, so holy crap, okay. Then you have to actually draw the Master Sword out of this dragon's head, while the dragon is jerking and flopping around trying to throw Link off. It's a scene straight out of Shadow of the Colossus. If you do manage to hold on, the light dragon ascends to actual heaven, where you're finally allowed to retrieve your prize. The whole sequence is completely bonkers, and is also enhanced by the story of the game, because this isn't just any dragon. This dragon is actually Princess Zelda, who teleported thousands of years into the past, sacrificed her body and mind to become a dragon, and then spent thousands of years charging the Master Sword with holy power. It's not just a cinematic and exciting bit of gameplay, it also ties into the plot in a meaningful and emotional way. It's good stuff. Speaking of dragons, that leads me to the last thing I want to talk about before ending this video, the battle against the Demon Dragon. I've already talked at length about how impressed I was by the sheer scale of the battles against Colgera and Moragia, but the Demon Dragon multiplies that by 1,000. This is a dragon v dragon battle, raging high above Hyrule Field, where Link feels like a little mosquito, like he's in a playground of giants. Diving down onto a dragon's back to retrieve the Master Sword was pretty cool, but leaping off one dragon's back to dive down onto another dragon's back so you can kill that dragon is legendary. It's honestly unbelievable. When I first encountered this, I could not believe it was really happening. In any other game, this is the sort of boss battle that would take place entirely in cutscenes and quick-time events. But in Tears of the Kingdom, a game that never takes control out of the player's hands, you are totally in control of this battle. The interactivity of this battle, combined with its scale, with all of Hyrule Kingdom as a backdrop to your victory, feels like a culmination of all the game's mechanics, all the developers' ideas about player freedom. It's not just the climax of this game, but the climax of two massive open-world games worth of experimentation and development. The climax of over a decade of work. This isn't just one of the most exciting moments in Tears of the Kingdom. This is one of the most exciting and memorable things I've ever done in any video game ever. I've never felt more like a legendary hero in a Zelda game than I did when I leapt onto this demon dragon's back and plunged a sword between its eyes. And just like with the Master Sword, this too is enhanced by the story. This demon dragon is a twisted and selfish corruption of Princess Zelda's own selfless sacrifice. When you slay it, you aren't just slaying a dragon, you are striking down evil itself, shattering greed, opposing corruption. And holy mother of God, it is so freaking cool. And there it is, what I believe are the 10 most exciting moments in Tears of the Kingdom. This is a very different kind of video than I usually do. I know that everyone who's subscribed to this channel is here for writing and story analysis, and I know list videos are kind of passé and clickbaity, but there are a lot more things I love about video games than just their stories, and I've been looking for ways to talk more about those other things too. So if this is a kind of video you enjoyed, or you'd like to see more videos like this, where I just ramble on about all the things I love in a video game, please do let me know.